Gen V Season 2 just confirmed its true villain, what it means for The Boys Season 5. You ever finish a season finale that completely melts your brain? Not because it's bad, but because it rewrites everything you thought you knew. Yeah, Gen V Season 2 just did that. And no, I'm not talking about another shock death, or Homelander smirking from the sky. I'm talking about the moment the real puppet master revealed himself. The moment that told us The Boys Season 5 is not just another battle, it's the final war. Because after that finale, it's official, Thomas Godolkin, yes, that Godolkin, isn't dead, he isn't forgotten, and he just became the most dangerous villain in the entire Vought universe. But here's where things get weird. What if I told you, Godolkin might already be inside the Boys universe? Not as a name, but as an idea. What if he's been pulling the strings since before anyone realized he was still alive? Let's talk about it. Because the clues go way deeper than most fans realize. When Gen V Season 2 dropped its finale, it didn't just end a storyline, it detonated a theory bomb. For months fans had guessed that Cipher's creepy puppet-like behavior was more than trauma or a lab experiment, and the finale confirmed it. The man behind Cipher's eyes, the charred figure haunting his mind, was Thomas freaking Godolkin, the founder, the false prophet of Vought's next generation. But here's the forbidden knowledge nobody's really talking about. Godolkin didn't just survive, he evolved. See, when Marie used her blood powers to Cipher, thinking she was saving a friend, she actually completed Godolkin's rebirth. That wasn't healing, that was resurrection. And in that one twisted act, she unleashed a man who believes he's no longer human. Let that sink in. We've seen Supes who think they're gods before. Homelander, Soldier Boy, Stormfront. But Godolkin, he's something else. He doesn't just think he's divine, he wants to rebuild creation in his own image. And that's exactly why The Boys Season 5 is about to get biblical. Think about it. The Boys Season 4 ended with a storm brewing, Butcher on a mission to wipe out all Supes, Starlight learning to literally fly, and Homelander turning the US into a cult of fear. But Season 5, that's where Godolkin's ideology infects the entire story. He's not just the next big bad, he's the ideological virus that pits everyone, Supes, humans, even the boys themselves, against one another. Because in Godolkin's mind, weak Supes deserve extinction. And if you're not strong enough to rule, you're meant to serve. Which sounds eerily familiar, doesn't it? It's the same kind of twisted social Darwinism that made Homelander a monster. But while Homelander rules by emotion, ego, rage, narcissism, Godolkin rules through logic. Cold, terrifying logic. He doesn't scream. He doesn't gloat. He simply calculates who deserves to live. Now, let's pause here, because I want to know what you think. Who's scarier, the Supe who kills out of pride, or the one who kills because he believes it's mercy? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to see where this fandom stands. Now here's where things get sinister. Godolkin's powers make him the ultimate predator. Unlike Kate, he doesn't need to touch someone to control them. His telepathic reach is vast, and if he can manipulate Cipher remotely, what's stopping him from reaching into Homelander's mind? Imagine it. The unstoppable Homelander reduced to a marionette, controlled, used, a weapon against his own people. That's not just terrifying, that's poetic. The man who sees himself as God, being turned into a puppet of the true devil. But here's the secret that really shakes things up. The connection that threads Gen V and the boys together in ways most people missed. Throughout The Boys Season 4, there were weird little moments, flashes of static, background whispers, glitches in the Vought news feeds. Fans thought it was a style choice. But a few frame-by-frame viewers caught something in one of those feeds. An image of a charred face flickers behind a news ticker. Guess what that image matches perfectly? Godolkin's burned visage from Gen V Season 2. Coincidence? Not a chance. This is Vought's ghost in the machine. Godolkin has found a way to project himself through technology, through Compound V's neural linkages. It's not just mind control, it's digital immortality. That means when we get to The Boys Season 5, Godolkin might not even need a body to wreak havoc. He could literally infiltrate Supes through the V compound in their bloodstream. Now imagine Butcher, infected with temporary V, slowly hearing whispers, seeing visions, losing control. That's not paranoia, that's Godolkin talking to him. And let's not forget Sister Sage. Oh, she's too quiet in all of this. The smartest person on Earth doesn't just disappear between seasons. You think she's gone rogue? Think again. Sage has always been about control, not chaos. And aligning with Godolkin gives her the perfect intellectual partner. The brains to his divine madness. She knows exactly what he's planning, and she's the one helping him stabilize his new physical form. Together, they're rewriting Vought's master plan, not to protect the world, but to reset it. If you thought Homelander's cult of personality was bad, wait until you see Godolkin's cult of evolution. Now, let's circle back to something I said earlier, about forbidden knowledge. Here's what most fans missed. Godolkin's obsession with perfection started decades ago. His original files, yes, the ones hidden in Vought's old archives, describe an experiment called Project Ascension. Its goal, to separate evolutionary superior Supes from the genetically flawed. The project failed, or so Vought claimed, but Gen V Season 2's ending proves it didn't. Godolkin revived Project Ascension himself, using the students at his school as test subjects. That's why Cipher, Marie, and Kate were always meant to meet. They weren't random, they were data points in a god's equation. So when you think about The Boys Season 5, ask yourself this: what happens when a man who can rewrite DNA decides humanity is obsolete? Now here's where it gets even more twisted. Remember polarity. The Supe who turned out to be immune to Godolkin's control. Yeah, that's no coincidence. His electromagnetic field literally scrambles Godolkin's neural frequencies, which means polarity might be the only Supe who can block his influence. That sets up a fascinating Season 5 scenario, a literal mind war. Polarity, the human magnet, standing against a man who controls minds. The closest thing the boys will ever have to a Magnetoverse Professor X showdown. But here's the kicker: Polarity's son Andrew isn't immune. If Godolkin can control Andrew, he could use him to kill his own father. Yeah. Let that emotional gut punch sink in for a second. Let's rewind to The Boys Season 4 finale. Remember that haunting final sequence? Butcher walking through the chaos, starlight ascending into the sky, and Homelander basking in applause soaked in blood. Everyone thought that was the apocalypse moment. But it wasn't. That was revelation. The point when humanity stopped fearing Supes and started worshipping them. And that's exactly what Thomas Godolkin wanted. He waited decades for this shift, for humans to surrender not by force, but by faith. See, Godolkin doesn't want to destroy humanity. He wants to domesticate it, to condition people to believe they need gods, so that when he steps out from the shadows, they welcome him as the savior of a broken world. Tell me that doesn't sound like a villain who studied religion, politics, and psychology better than anyone at Vought. That's not evil for chaos, that's evil with purpose. Now, here's the wild part most fans didn't catch: The Boys Season 4's secret post-credits audio. Yeah, that tiny static lace transmission wasn't random. If you clean up the sound, you can faintly hear a distorted male voice saying, "The God returns when the blood sings." Sound familiar? That's Godolkin's motto from Gen V Season 1. He literally said it to Marie in her first therapy session. So if the voice returned after Season 4, that means he's already spreading, not physically, but psychologically, through the Compound V network. Think of it like this: every drop of V is a radio tower, and Godolkin has just found the frequency. That's not a villain reveal, that's a world-ending event disguised as a whisper. Now, here's a hypothetical for you. Let's say Homelander isn't immune to Godolkin's influence. Let's say Butcher's Supe virus plan actually activates Godolkin's control over any Supe infected with modified V. What happens when both of them, the two biggest forces of chaos, unknowingly become weapons of his design? It's not a war anymore. It's a cleansing. The Boys Season 5 could literally open with Butcher thinking he's hunting Supes, while Godolkin uses him to exterminate everyone who doesn't fit his divine gene. And Homelander, picture this: his eyes glow, his smirk fades, and he starts repeating phrases that aren't his own. The audience won't realize it at first, but his mannerisms will change, his voice slightly altered, until one day, he kneels, before an unseen figure. That's how you announce the final villain. Not with explosions, but with submission. Now let's talk about Marie, because she's the key to stopping all of this. Her powers are literally tied to blood, to the very essence of V itself, which means she could be the only one capable of purging Godolkin's influence from within the Supe gene. But there's a catch. To do that, she'd have to destroy part of herself. And that's where the emotional tension comes in. Marie's arc has always been about control. Control over her trauma, her powers, her identity. And in The Boys Season 5, she'll have to choose: either save herself or save everyone else. So while the fandom argues over who can kill Homelander, the real question isn't who kills him. It's who kills the god inside him. Now, if you've been following Breakdown Epic for a while, and I know some of you have been here since we decoded Soldier Boy's fake death, you know we love spotting the narrative mirrors. And this one, it's almost poetic. In The Boys Season 1, Homelander said, "You don't need God when you have me." But in Season 5, I guarantee we'll hear, "You don't need me when you have Godolkin." Because Homelander's God complex was a stepping stone, a vessel for the real God to enter the story. And here's where it gets emotionally insane. Butcher, the man who's dedicated his life to killing Supes, might have to save one. He might have to protect Homelander, not out of mercy, but because killing him would hand complete control to Godolkin. The irony writes itself. Now, let's open the floor to you. If Butcher had to choose between saving Homelander or letting Godolkin win, what do you think he'd do? Comment below, and don't cop out with, "He'd blow them both up." I want your actual moral take. Would he die a hero or live long enough to become the monster he's hunted? But here's something darker I need to throw out there, because this theory has been circulating in the deeper Reddit threads. What if Godolkin isn't the final villain? What if he's the architect for something bigger, something that even he can't control? Think about it. His ability to transfer consciousness through neural links means his mind could replicate indefinitely. What happens if his perfect Supe experiment creates AI-level intelligence, a digital god form from human and Supe memories combined? That's not The Boys anymore. That's post-human apocalypse territory, and it would make perfect sense for the franchise's endgame. Power evolving beyond flesh. The true Generation V, not a group of kids but a new species. Now I've got to be honest, as dark as that sounds, it's so in line with the show's satirical DNA. The Boys has always mocked corporate greed, hero worship, political propaganda. And this would be the ultimate punchline: humanity builds heroes to save them. Heroes evolve, heroes enslave them. And in the end, all that's left is a logo: Vought, eternal, profitable, post-human. That's the tragic brilliance of this world. But hey, let's step back for a second, because we're all doom and dread right now. Let's play a little what if to lighten the mood. What if season 5 opens not with violence, but with Homelander doing a wholesome TV interview, smiling, talking about peace, and then casually slips into Godolkin's voice mid-sentence? Can you imagine the internet meltdown? Homelander. Aches has stopped working. Someone's definitely making that meme within 5 minutes of the premiere. And if you think I'm exaggerating, remember how season 4's laser eye scene became a TikTok sound overnight. Yeah, picture that, but creepier. Here's another callback for the real breakdown epic OGs. Remember when we broke down Stormfront's ideology arc and said Vought would try to sanitize their evil by turning into branding? Well, now they don't need to hide it. Godolkin's plan is the brand. He's literally building a world where stronger together means stronger over. And you can bet Vought will find a way to sell it. So if you think The Boys season 5 is just about who dies, you're missing the point. It's about who profits. Now, let me confess something before we close this breakdown. When I first saw Cipher's reveal, I laughed. I thought, wow, another twist villain, classic Vought. But the more I rewatched it, the more it hit me. This isn't about plot twists, it's about inevitability. Because in this world, every hero either becomes a monster or a marketing tool. And Godolkin, he's both. He's not a man trying to be a god, he's a brand trying to become belief. And that's terrifying. So here's your final mind bender to sit with tonight. What if The Boys doesn't end with Butcher killing Homelander, but with Marie killing Godolkin and realizing she's inherited his curse? Because when you kill a god, someone has to take his place. And that, my friends, is the forbidden truth at the heart of Gen V's finale. It wasn't about Cipher. It wasn't about power. It was about inheritance. The birth of a new era, where gods don't need churches or cameras. They just need followers. And Vought already has billions. If you're still here after all that, you're officially part of the Breakdown Epic Brain Trust. And I mean that sincerely. You've survived one of the darkest theory dives I've ever scripted. So, reward yourself. Drop your favorite Gen V moment in the comments, and let's see which one hits hardest for the fandom. And if you haven't yet, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, because the second The Boys Season 5 trailer drops, Sophia's gonna be right here, connecting every clue, every scream, and every god-level twist that Amazon dares to throw at us. Until next time, stay suspicious, stay cynical, and remember, in a world full of soups, knowledge is the only real superpower.